will not believe that Nicki Minaj, Kenneth Petty, and Jennifer Hough has been lying to you. It was only a few years ago that Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty's victim, Jennifer Hough, spoke out about the incident that took place in 1994.
And so I'd let go, and as soon as I let go, he'd grab my pants. It was like a tug of war.
And according to her, being harassed by Kenneth Petty and Nicki.
Leave me alone.
But is it all true? Due to all the secret recordings.
You was young, you was pressured, correct, right?
Absolutely, but outside of damage control, let's just forget it.
Petty's grandmother's house, which I've outlined the conditions.
Some of the interviews that Jennifer has done, I've been able to put everything to the best of my ability in a timeline, fashion, and order so we can explain everything and have a better understanding of the whole situation. My name is Martin and I'm making long form content here on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe with the bell and let's get straight into the drama. So let's go back to the beginning with Jennifer and Kenneth's upbringing in New York. So from my understanding, Jen's mother had kids at a very young age, and the grandmother, Jennifer's mother, gave them away because she wasn't able to take care of them. Gave them away to a woman in New York who was adopting kids.
Will show you every single thing about this woman. This woman had taken me to India and London. This woman has done missionary work all over. She has adopted many families. Many families call her mom. My grandmother adopted so many children.
You know, she always had kids in the house.
Like, my grandmother had a home that she put an ad out in the paper, and Jennifer's grandmother, her name was Marlene, she looked at this ad, called my grandmother, and put her, Heather, is Jennifer's mom, her brother Johnny, in this car with some strangers, and they brought them to New York.
My white grandmother gave my white mother to this black woman, and that was all she wrote. When my mother got older and chose to have kids and not choose to be a mother, she did the same thing. She raised my mother and my mother's brother. And she raised me and my brothers. My mother had 6 kids. My mother was on drugs.
My grandmother sacrificed a lot. She was not the best grandmother in the world. Jennifer was her prized possession, that everybody knew that.
I have nothing negative to say about my grandmother. She raised me and my brothers. She gave me morals. She gave me values. She had a different way of handling things, a different way of dealing with things.
When she took Jennifer in, she had favoritism.
But unfortunately, horrible, dysfunctional things happened in this woman's household. Family members being aimed by someone who should have been protecting and taking care of them.
My parents, my mother, and my 2 aunties were by my grandmother's husband. Whatever she did, she didn't protect them the way she should have.
There seemed to be a common theme in this household that also affected Jennifer as well.
I have been molested since the age of 4 in that household by different people. It was always said to be my fault. I must have had my hair out. I must have been smiling in his face. I must have done something to warrant it.
Including her own mother's brother.
My earliest memory, I was about 4.
Now, another person who got involved in this situation is Jennifer's cousin, Sharon, which I'll explain more detail how she's involved in this story later on in this video, but she was very close to Jennifer.
I went there every single summer, every Christmas break, every break. I ran away from home at 14 because I was buried. My father was a pastor. I couldn't listen to rap music. I had to sneak to do everything. Right. So when I was in New York, I had more freedom. With Jennifer, it's always like, oh, what she do now? What is we in trouble for this, that, or what she do now? But I'm always the cousin that always listens to her, that always accepts her, and she knows I have a soft spot for it. She's like 2 or 3 years older than me, so it's like I always looked up for her.
Now, according to Jennifer's cousin, she was for the streets.
Jennifer always had like this, she was always promiscuous. She always got in trouble for cutting school, for doing something with a boy. She always had a drug dealer boyfriend. She always had boys buying her stuff. She's a very beautiful girl.
But according to Jennifer, that wasn't the case, and it seemed like she had a strict upbringing.
Not at 16. I wasn't hanging out with niggas on the corners. I wasn't hanging out with girls. The life that I had, the life that I grew up in, the household that I grew up in, that shit wasn't going.
I seen Jennifer around. She was like one of the Spanish girls around. She looked Spanish. She was one of the say top 5 girls in the hood that was beautiful.
Now let's get into Kenneth's upbringing. Keep in mind, this is according to Kenneth's old friend named Cory, who actually grew up with Kenneth, so keep in mind this is all hearsay.
As a young guy, you know, I noticed that he was always in the streets, always outside, always into stuff. I didn't understand that, but word on the streets that he had trouble at home, meaning his family was addicted to drugs. It led him to the streets. He didn't like going home due to his family issues.
This is also confirmed by a secret recording that was released by a woman named Juggler. The recording was actually taken during Kenneth's court hearing, which we will get into later. Keep watching. Anyway, Nicki Minaj ended up writing a letter to the judge which confirmed Kenneth's family's situation when he was young.
I've known Kenneth Petty for over 20 years. When I originally met him, I could see he needed guidance. The people who were in charge of him were still battling their own personal issues at that time, ranging from drugs to alcoholism to domestic abuse. We're simply not able to give him the attention and nurturing that every young child so desperately deserves from the people they love and look to.
Due to all this, Kenneth was staying with other people's families.
He first was staying with one of my other friends in the building. Then, you know, I don't know what happened. Then my mother, months or a year or so later, allowed him to come in our residence. About 13, 14.
Now, apparently there was another incident that happened according to Cory, but keep in mind, this is hearsay and there's no evidence to back this up at all.
I'm never gonna mention her name, God rest her soul. She was a disabled woman. She was mentally slow. He took advantage of her. It was rumors that he caught her in the staircase and took her innocence. Every time this young lady used to see him, she'd be spooked. As a kid, I didn't understand why this young girl used to be so scared around him. As kids, you don't take things like that seriously, you know?
Now, according to Cory, years after the incident, she was still spooked every time Kenny came around. So Cory will be asking Kenneth, yo, like, why does she cringe
when she see you if you didn't do that? She'd just brush it off like, man, she retarded. You believe her? As a kid, you're like, yeah, all right, we just all brush it off and keep it moving.
Also, according to Cory, when they were young teenagers, they were very and sleeping and sharing a lot of women with each other until one of them ended up getting an STD and Cory decided to stop sharing the girls that he was sleeping with. Now, the promiscuity was confirmed in text messages between Cory and Kenneth, which we will get more into later on in this video so you understand the context of these text messages.
You know, when he moved in with me, I had a stepsister, I have cousins, I have my real sister. Now, my stepsister, he was old enough to manipulate her mind to have sex with him.
Now, if this is all true, he did also say that his sister was fast. In one video recording, Cory says that Kenneth was older than him and he said he was 4 years older than his sister.
Yeah, she was 12, bro. Like, you older than me. I got her by 4 years.
But then in an interview that he did with a YouTuber, he says that Kenneth was 4 years older than her.
So it was like he had about 4 years, so
16 years old.
Not saying he her, but he manipulated her.
It sounded like Kenneth really wasn't a good person.
In 1994, he was a mess. He was a menace. He was somebody who antagonized people. He was a nigga who stood on the corner and, you know, back then they was throwing bottles at bitches.
Now let's get into how Jenifer and Kenneth actually knew of each other.
I knew him as Kenny. We grew up in the same neighborhood.
Kenny was more familiar with Jenifer because Kenny lived a block or two away from her.
My mother and his mother used to run the streets together.
My mother was a crackhead in Queens. She is now dead.
His uncle worked at the local tire shop. I didn't know his whole family, but there was a few members of his family that knew me and my brothers because of who my mother was.
And Jenifer always been a beautiful woman, one of the most beautiful women around our area. And Kenny, he always be like, oh, she bad. Ooh, I'm like, okay.
His family came and claimed that the two of you were in a relationship. Is any of that true?
No, we were never in a relationship, ever. We never had no type of romantic anything. We never talked on the phone. We never hung out together. I just knew him from the neighborhood.
Now apparently there was no relationship between the two, but there was something that Jenifer said that stuck out to me.
Not that I feel like Kenny was obsessed with me, but I
upset that I never chose him.
This was during an interview with Daytime Teen Time. By the way, I cannot find this video anywhere. I even messaged Daytime Teen Time so I can have access to it, but it turns out that she has taken it down and she hasn't gotten back to me.
Kenny was upset that I never chose him.
This makes me think, what does she actually mean by that? Because it makes it seem like Kenneth was an option to her.
And if he was an option and you rejected him, that means you knew him.
Kenny was upset that I never chose him.
Here are two things that Jenifer said in interviews that made me feel that she knew him.
In September of '94.
Right.
My birthday's in March, he's in April, which means we both were the same age at that time. I just knew, you know, he was the type of dude that, you know, if you said something he didn't like, he might bring up the fact of what my mother did. He might bring up the fact, you know what I'm saying?
On top of that, according to the police report, they used to go to the same school.
Yes, I knew Kenny from the neighborhood, but we wasn't friends. We didn't hang out. We didn't go to parties together. We didn't go to friends' houses together. We didn't hang out in the same locations. He was a nigga that I knew that stood on 145th and Rocco.
I did message Jenifer so I can have a clear understanding of why she said this.
Kenny was upset that I never chose him.
And this was her response. He used to try to talk to me all the time, but I never liked him. Also, there is something that happened right before he violated me, but that's gonna come out in court.
I didn't want him and his friends to think that they can do that to me again.
Now let's get into the incident that took place.
It was September 16th of '94.
According to the court documents, in September the 16th, 1994, Jenifer left her grandmother's house in Jamaica, Queens, and was headed to the QT-MTA bus stop on 145 Street on Rockaway Boulevard to catch the bus to her school.
I seen him at a bus stop. I didn't think anything of it other than, there goes Kenny.
According to this, when Jenifer went to the bus stop, she was taken back at the sight of Petty waiting at the bus stop.
So I had no reason to fear him walking to the bus stop. I just felt like he was annoying. My attitude at the time was like, oh gosh, here go Kenny.
Because it was unusual, as Petty used to just stand across the street outside the store.
Across the street?
Now, Jenifer was at the bus stop but did not communicate with Kenneth.
Seen him, he said what's up, I said what's up, he asked me where I was going.
Jenifer ended up responding, telling him that she's going to school, and asked him where he was going. And Kenneth said that he was going to school also.
I said, yeah, right, you lying.
I might have said something like, yeah, right.
I said, you're lying because I never knew Kenny to go to school.
Turned away from him to look for the bus or the dollar van. And before you know it, he was grabbing a hold of my jacket.
Oh, I feel this nigga up on me. He's in my back. And he's like, yo, when some real start walking. And I'm like, come on, Kenny, man, stop playing. And he was like, I'm dead serious, start walking.
I felt something in my back. I assumed there was a gun.
Now, Jenifer's assumption at the time when this happened was wrong. It actually was not a gun, and according to the court documents, the police report, it was a knife. But while looking further into the police report, they never mentioned anything about a knife being pressed behind her. It either said it was a blunt object, or it said that it was a gun-like object pressed on her back. Nothing about a knife. So where did this court document get that idea from? According to Bossip, to some documents that they uncovered, court records of Kenneth's grape case, a whole different situation happened. So we are now in a metaverse and have a whole different timeline. It says here, 1994 in Queens, New York, she was walking down the street when Petty came up behind her and placed a hard circular object against her back and made a clicking sound. In this situation, she was not talking to Petty, she was walking down the street, and Petty ran up behind her and pressed an object behind her back. This is what Jenifer told the police according to the court documents. Later on in the same page of this document, when Kenneth was arrested, which we'll get into, he did say to the police that he did not see her that day, but then claimed that he did see her at the bus stop and had a conversation with her, and after speaking with her, he just went home and fell asleep. But he did say that he had slept with the girl before. Now, regardless of what situation happened after that, according to the court documents, during this time, Jenifer ended up pleading, saying, Kenny, where are we going? Kenny, please just let me go. Kenneth ended up forcing Jenifer to his grandmother's house.
Trying to understand what does he want, and we get in front of this house. It might have been maybe the second or third house from the corner, and he kind of reaches behind me with his foot to push the door open.
Pushed Jenifer inside and walked her upstairs, still at knife point.
Now I'm crying because now I'm inside. We walk up the steps and I'm continuously pleading with him.
She was asking Kenny, what do you want with me? Why am I here?
If you just want me to chill here with you, I will.
I'll stay with you, but I gotta go to school. Wondering like, what do you want me here for?
And Kenneth replied to her saying, you know what I want. Now, he ends up pushing Jenifer on the bed and they're both struggling with each other. Kenneth allegedly trying to take her clothes off, with Jenifer trying to keep her clothes on.
All I could do was hold my pants like this, as tight as I can. I don't know why it didn't dawn on me to like really fight.
He also squeezed her neck, causing her sustained bruises and pain. But then in the interview, Jenifer strongly implies that he never choked her.
I could be making up shit. I could have been like, yo, this nigga was beating me up and he was choking me, but he didn't do that. He was just stronger than me.
And bit her face.
I just held on to my pants and he'd hold my arms down and he squeezed the sides of my stomach so hard. And so I'd let go, and as soon as I let go, he'd grab my pants. It was like a tug of war. After a while, I just got tired.
According to an email that was sent to Daytime Tea Time, apparently he was ripping off her clothes with his knife, and he did cut her stomach and allegedly her multiple times, not just one. But according to the court documents, he held her down with his body weight and used his hands to forcibly rip off her pants, and Jenifer was fighting back as hard as she can until Kenneth allegedly grabs the knife and presses it against her into her stomach, causing a small cut, and threatened to use it further. He ended up squeezing Jenifer's sides to force her to let go of her pants. After being threatened with the knife cut on her stomach, she had no fight left in her, seeing no escape in sight. Jenifer did the only thing she could do to save her life and just wait and hope until her was over, hoping it would be over quickly.
I could just hurry up and leave.
After that, he ends up getting off Jenifer, allegedly ends up going to the mirror.
He beat his chest and he said, I'm the man, I'm the man.
According to the documents, Jenifer got all her strength and finally got up and asked Petty, can she please leave? She ended up walking towards the door and Petty ended up blocking her from it and wouldn't allow her to leave. At this point, she was begging to leave and he wouldn't let her.
So I'm asking him, please let me go. I won't tell nobody. And he just was into the mirror. He just into himself.
This is when Jenifer made her first move to try to escape.
He went to light a cigarette and I thought maybe I seen a roll of toilet paper on the dresser. And I thought maybe if I liked a cigarette, I could get the match to set the toilet paper on fire, and it went out.
She ended up finding a contact solution and ended up picking it up and throwing it at Kenny as hard as she can so she could escape. This is in the court documents, but according to Jenifer, she actually squirted it in his face.
I squirted his contact lens cleaner in his face, and he was like, thank you for wiping my face, and he just washed the water.
And then picked up another bottle and hit him with it.
And at that time, I just seen this big plastic bottle, almost like the bleach bottle, and I just took it and swung it at him with all my might, and when he went to duck, I pushed him.
Something that you clean contact lenses with, it was like a big bottle like on the edge of the dresser, and so I picked it up and I threw it with all my might at his head.
And he fell in between the beds and I just ran, and I just kept running.
When she was running down the stairs, Petty yelled, nobody's going to believe you. Now, according to Petty in the declaration that he filed, Petty claimed that in 1994, the encounter between him and himself and Hough was consensual and did not force plaintiff into the house. I did not force plaintiff to have sex with me, and I did not or physically assaulted plaintiff in any way, nor did I threaten plaintiff.
I chose not to go home because I figured if I went home, nothing would get done. And I knew the kind of friends that Kenny hung out with, and I felt like they would feel that they could do the same. So instead, I ran to school.
And just kept running, and before I knew it, I was in front of my school.
My clothes was messed up, my hair was messed up, I had a cut on my face and I had a cut on my stomach.
It was my cousin Charleste on my father's side. She went to the school too, and she seen me in the hallway, and I told her what happened, and she got the security guards there.
The security guard was asking me, where have you been, Jenifer? You're late.
She was in the office bleeding.
And I told him, and they called the police. And the police came and they put me in a van and they asked me if I can show them the location of where this happened. I did.
Which happened to be his house. I did not know it was his house at the time. I had never been to his house.
And I watched them bring him out in handcuffs.
He ended up getting arrested. He said, "What am I being arrested for? I didn't do anything." And when the police brought up Jenifer, that's when he actually told them he had not seen her that day, but then claimed that he saw her later on at a bus station and have a conversation with her, and said that he did sleep with Jenifer before. So it looked like a 16-year-old scared and doesn't know how to tell a story straight because he's lying.
So they found a knife in his crib.
Yeah, they took it out when they took him out.
Petty was charged with 5 crimes, R-word in the first degree, S.A. in the first degree, unlawful imprisonment in the second degree, assault in the second degree, and criminal possession of a weapon in the 4th degree.
And then they took me to the hospital.
I had to do kit and everything. They took my clothes, they took everything from me and put it in a paper bag, and they seized it.
At the Jamaica Hospital Emergency Department. And according to the medical records, 2 woman part smears and 1 pair of the panties were positive for the presence of spentosa. As well as that, Kenny's checkers shorts were also positive for spentosa. And the large knife was negative for the presence of blood. Now, according to Jenifer's cousin, a different situation happened, and it actually sounds like that Jenifer and Kenneth knew each other.
Her to say that story, and she says, I mean, yeah, because I already was going on into it in the house, and this happened, and it was just, when I went to him, I was just so upset that he would treat me like that, already knowing what I've been through. Huh?
Now, this was according to her cousin because Jenifer told her the story a second time, which we will get into later the second time. But anyway, I digress.
Kenny invited her over and had to her and then tell her to go home because his main girlfriend was coming.
And according to Kenneth's little sister, who was in communication with Hotshot Radio, she said that they were just effing around. And she never denied what she told Hotshot Radio.
She said Jenifer is lying. Kenneth Petty did not rape Jenifer. She said that it was consensual. She said they were f***ing before the incident. They were already f***ing. And this was just another day that they had fucked.
It still doesn't explain the evidence that we have with all her bruising on her body, on her neck, and on her face.
She knows she was a slut cake.
Ooh.
She got a whole train ran on her by the niggas in the hood. And when she got caught cutting school, she came home and that was the lie she told my grandmother. And when my aunt and all of them and my older sister went out into the neighborhood seeing what's going on, that's when they oh my God, they would not let my grandmother live with it. And that's when she went and got down to the bottom of it. And then you hear her say, oh, I was not supposed to talk about it and I was sent down south because you got caught up in a lie and you embarrassed the hell out of her.
Now, to explain more clearly what I actually got from this, and I had to write it down, Jenifer slept with Kenny. He told her to go home because his main girl was coming over, right? And I can only assume that she was cutting school to sleep with him. Now, when she got caught up by the family, that was a lie she told the grandmother. I guess to get back at him or to excuse cutting school. Again, it's not elaborated on. I can only assume to get back at him. Again, she doesn't go into detail on this. This is just all assumption. But again, it doesn't explain the bruising. And according to Jenifer, she ran to school. So how did they catch her cutting school if she ran to school? So whatever Sunday is saying, it really just sounds like he say. Another thing that's really interesting, according to the Daily Beat, when they reviewed the video footage of Petty police interrogation, which took place on September the 16th, 1994. At the time, Petty claimed that although he saw Hough in the morning, they only encountered each other in passing. He told the police he had not had sex with Hough or anyone else that day. But obviously, Kenny keeps changing his story to what he told the police, to his interrogation, claiming that he didn't see her that day, then claiming later that he saw her at the bus stop, had a conversation with her. So it just sounds like a 16-year-old that is really bad at lying. Okay, so let's get into when they all try to force Jenifer to drop the charges.
At what point during the trial, it was reported that you tried to recant your accusations? What happened?
Instead of me going home after that happened because I ran to school, I wasn't able to involve family members of what happened. The police had got involved right away, so.
When I got home, I was told, sorry you got raped, but you should have screamed.
When she returned to her house and told her adopted mother what happened, Jenifer said she was simply told, Sorry you got R-word, but you should have screamed. But according to the court documents, she contradicts herself by saying that it was her friend who told her that and not her grandmother. It seems to me that Jenifer seems to be inconsistent as well, and sometimes I can't help but to feel that she's inconsistent with certain things like this because she wants to protect her family, etc. But she's also inconsistent with explaining stories when it comes to Kenneth.
When all of this happened, I was living with the foster family. They didn't want any issues and they didn't want any problems. So they listened to whatever Kenny's parents said. Kenny's parents showed up at my house. They spoke to the lady who raised me. They told all kind of lies and said that I was dating their son, which I didn't even know Kenny's dad. I didn't even know who he was, but he claimed he knew who I was.
Now, according to the court documents, Kenneth's parents went on a delusional rant stating that Jenifer was only accusing him because he didn't want to date her anymore.
People I lived with, they allowed his mother and father to take me to go see the district attorney to pretend like they were my aunt and uncle.
Now, I'm not sure exactly when, but according to the timeline on the Daily Beast, Kenneth's parents end up taking Jenifer to the district attorney's office.
My family allowed his mother and father to take me to go see the district attorney and pretend like they were my aunt and uncle, she told the Daily Beast. I think I kinda always just felt like people wanted me to be a liar. And this is when Jenifer and her family were getting harassed.
I was one of the guys threatening Jenifer as a kid.
They were pretty upset about the threats that, I better drop the charges.
Me and my friends went and threatened Jenifer family. I was knocking on this woman's door. Kenny was in jail. He didn't know what was going on in the street. I was threatening her. A few other people probably was threatening her too. I don't remember who it was. But I know personally, I went there a few times and threatened her.
Cory said himself that he went to Jen's house and left threatening notes on her porch, and that he was trying to intimidate her.
Before the court coming up, I'll let her know if Jen show up, something gonna happen to her. You know what I'm saying? And
then there was this letter. Let's get into that.
We all tried to get an affidavit, which somebody wrote it up for her to sign it. They tried to get an affidavit to sign it so he could come home. Yo, she gotta sign a letter. We gonna get an affidavit for her to sign a letter and say, look, he ain't do this.
Now, Jenifer confirmed on the Daily Beast that she was forced to sign this letter, and this is what the letter said. The letter stated that Hough would like to drop the charges against Kenneth Petty and claims that the bruises photographed on Hough's necks were hickeys that I got the day before from someone else. While Hough was reportedly insisted that she and Petty were never in a relationship, the letter states that she used to go out with him. According to the letter, Hough accompanied Petty voluntarily to his home where they allegedly began making out, but then the letter states that they got into an argument that turns physical. I told him I wanted to leave, but he wouldn't let me leave because he said I was too upset. The letter states he asked to make love with me again and I said no. Eventually the letter states Petty told me if I would have sex with him, I can leave. So I did because I was already late for school and I just wanted to leave. The letter continues, a friend told Hough to go to an office and tell him I was R-word because even if I had S-word with him the first time, I didn't want to have S-word the second time. But then in a secret video recording, which we will talk about more later in this video, she actually said that she wrote the letter.
When you wrote the letter and gave it to the DA, what did they say?
I wrote the letter, I gave it to the DA, and then I showed up at court. And I stood up.
And then in an interview that Jenifer did, she tried to claim that there was no letter at all in confidence.
As far as the letter goes, there is no letter. I just told Black what he wanted to hear. I figured them with their money and their lawyers, if there really was a letter, then that would have been shown already. Transcripts have been shown. Him admitting to it had been shown.
This was done in 2022. But then in 2023, when the Beast end up obtaining this letter, that's when she talks about actually signing a letter. There are two contradicting stories here, and it seems like she was actually trying to hide the fact that there was a letter that she wrote.
And his mother told me this specifically. Leave her alone. You're gonna be locked up for tampering with the witness because the DA already said that tampering with the witness. And I said, okay. My mother told me, look, fall the back and let the court system do it. If he innocent, he's gonna come home. So I was like, all right, Ma, and I respected that.
I wasn't only being threatened by people out in the street, I was being threatened by the adults that was in my life to make this go away.
And according to the court documents, Jenifer was physically and verbally abused not just on the street, but also in her home, because they wanted her to drop the charges on Kenny.
The lady who raised me, she was much older. And to prevent fear from that house, I was forced to go up to the courthouse on his court date. I wasn't supposed to be there.
They forced her to go because they wanted her to drop the charges.
I had an older family member in my family who took me to court on his court date. And they had me on the stairwell.
They had me hiding on the steps, they meaning my family, and it just so happened that the district attorney took the steps that day. And she seen me and she asked me, Jenifer, what are you doing here? And because my back was to my family, I was able to tell her that they were trying to force me to drop the charges.
And she reassured me that it wasn't going to happen.
So when it came time for court, I believe the judge might have asked a question and I stood up.
I would like to drop the charges. I made a huge mistake.
I never said it didn't happen. I just said I want to drop the charges.
I'm in court in front of his family, in front of friends, in front of everybody. And they was like, take it to the DA.
And according to Nicki Minaj, the alleged accuser wrote a letter to the judge asking to recant the statement. She was told that she would go to jail for 90 days, allegedly, if she recants her statement.
District attorney told me I had nothing to worry about, and I went home.
Now, according to the court documents, Jenifer was beaten at home that day because she was not convincing enough for the judge. The family was afraid of what would happen because defendant Petty was now facing prison time. So after that, Kenneth ended up accepting a plea deal, which I find really interesting because with all the evidence that they had, why would they need him to plead? I don't know if they did it because it's too much resources and they want him to make a plea deal before the actual court hearing. I don't know if it's because they didn't have enough evidence. I just don't know why they gave a plea deal. And he even had issues with pleading guilty. Now, he was arrested for attempted R-word, not actual R-word. Now, Kenneth said that the reason why he pled guilty, according to him and the filing that he did in the declaration in 2021, I pled guilty to attempted R-word despite my innocence because I was a scared 16-year-old kid and I was told that my sentence will be 20 years to life if I did not plead guilty to attempt R-word. Interesting about that, there was a recording that we got from Juggler, the secret recording that was in his court hearing due to him not registering. We'll get into that later. His lawyer said this.
The offense actually took place at Mr. Petty's grandmother's house, which I've outlined the conditions of. And Mr. Petty he's remorseful. It's hard for him to hear these things. And someday, as I'll point out, Mr. Petty has told us that he's going to have these conversations with his own son.
Did he want to continue with this lie because he lied before? Did he think there was no way out of it? But if that's the case, why did he file this declaration in 2021? So he had the power to do something before and go, look, I'm innocent. Why is it now that he's doing it? He stated in his own declaration, he said it was consensual. And Jenifer was a willing participant. So what are you remorseful for? Something's really sus about that, but to be fair, he has not really gone online, shared his side, but I do find this really sus. Anyway, due to his plea, he was able to plead down and was convicted of R-word in the first degree for 4 years. And after he gets out of prison, he will have to register as a S offender. And this is due to Jenifer's age at the time. Even though the same age as her, he still has to register as that. That's why a lot of people been accusing Kenneth Petty for being a P-word.
I just knew he did what he did and he went to jail.
I had issues going on in the house within family members because they felt like what made me so special to where I get to press charges against somebody who violated me.
A close friend of Jenifer at the time of the assault confirmed that she and Petty were never in a relationship and said Jenifer had never expressed to them a desire to recant her story. They also recalled that the harassment Jenifer and her family faced was at one point so severe that Jenifer went to stay at a friend's house for a few days. Jenifer confirmed this. Everything was going so bad for Jenifer from inside her home to outside. Now, according to the court documents, due to the mental trauma of the constant beating and verbal abuse at home, Jenifer ran away from New York City, her home, for 16 years.
I had to leave my family, I had to leave my home, and I had to move away. I was still blaming myself. I thought it was something that I did or didn't do.
And moved to Florida with her uncle, who she thought would protect her. Now keep in mind, this was the same uncle that was apparently M-wording her when she was younger. While she was there, memories started to come up.
But, you know, he wasn't a part of my everyday life, so I kind of thought like I was imagining it. It wasn't until I got a little older and went to live with him that, you know, he reminded me of the games we used to play when I was a little girl. And then it's like a clip that pops in your head and you'd be like, oh, you the nasty son of a bitch. Like, you my own flesh and blood, my nigga. Like, you my mother's brother. You the only one that any of us know. Like, and his excuse was that he thought that was the only way to get closer to me because I was quiet and I didn't talk. And nigga, I moved here because I just got in New York.
And according to the court documents, her uncle ended up R-wording her. She ended up leaving her uncles and had been on her own ever since. So over the years, Jenifer was mentally and emotionally destroyed and attempted to find value and kindness in anything she could. Partying, D-word, living on the streets and in and out of shelters. Jenifer's self-worth was at a zero, her emotions were empty, and she was lost. According to the documents, Jenifer also moved around a lot because she was afraid to go back to New York for fear of someone recognizing her. Jenifer ended up having 4 children and failed relationships and never knew a true home in her entire life.
Now, I've heard about this story. I've heard about this story since I was a little girl. Because September 16th, it used to play in my head like, whose birthday is it? But it's not anybody's birthday. That's the day. All right, so boom. And that story has always hurt my soul. I always asked her, who is he? Going on Facebook, can you show me who he is? And I could never see who he was.
So we are now in 1999 and Kenneth ends up leaving prison and then he has to register as a S offender. One of the crimes that is committed in that tier is transporting a minor for S-word purposes. Even though he was, in the law it does not matter. Intimidating to get a victim to engage in S. Also in that tier is CP distribution. Okay, so this is when another contradiction comes up. According to the court documents, she was so afraid to go back to New York, right? She was moving around, avoiding New York. But then she went back to New York.
Back to New York because I had my son in 97. So I had moved back to New York then. And I was living up there at my grandmother's house, at the house I was raised in.
And she's seen Kenny twice.
But I've seen Kenny maybe twice since he got out of prison after what he did to me.
Even though in this interview where she claimed to see him twice, she never elaborates or explains when she actually saw Kenny. She never said if it was just passing on the street, they went at a bar, did they meet up? Like, it is really not elaborated here. Even in her declaration, she said, I moved around a lot because I was too afraid to go back to New York for fears of someone recognizing me. Then in 2006, Kenny ends up getting charged for manslaughter.
He served 7 years for that crime.
Officials originally charged Petty with murder in the 2nd degree, but he was able to get it knocked down to manslaughter when he cut a deal.
He served 7 of the 10 years that he was sentenced to, being released in May of 2013. Now he was on supervised release for 5 years, which officially ended in May of this year.
Now I'm not going to go into the details of that case, but if you guys do want, let me know in the comment section below and get this video to 2,000 likes.
So I went to ATL to sell my books, and I ran into Jennifer's brother.
Reached out to me, I was in Atlanta.
And I was like, yo, bro, where your sis at? Like, I really apologize for what happened. And I really want to reconcile, like, what happened because I need to know her story because he keep brushing off what's going on. Like, so long story short.
Then I pulled up over to the crib. Jennifer was there. We chopped it up. Boom, 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 boom. Whole time, like, yo, you crazy. But she still loved because she understood that I didn't know what was going on.
But according to Jenifer, she does not remember him telling her this.
I don't remember him telling me that he played a part in that because I wouldn't have felt so stupid when I heard it.
Anyway, according to Cory, while he's at the crib, she ends up showing Cory her scar and explain her side of the events and what happened with Kenneth.
when she was telling me, it was cringing my soul, because everything that she said, that's his character, because he used to go to the bus stop. That's where he met Nicki Minaj and beat up Nicki Minaj's old boyfriend. I believe that he did that because he's aggressive.
Just when we talked about it, I don't know if he said that he talked to me about his part in what happened back then, because I don't remember that.
Barbs, I know you're out there. I love you so much.
Now we are in 2018, where Nicki Minaj seems to make her relationship with Kenneth public on her Instagram by posting pictures together. I found this funny. I did not know she was the blood, but apparently she repping.
A lot of folks were kind of disturbed, like, why is Nicki Minaj throwing up, blood hand signs? Like, this is so far from the Nicki Minaj that we're used to, so people were like really confused.
Now, because this is public, this is when the Barbs end up looking into Kenneth's background, finding out that he was a ex-offender and blasted all over the internet, and end up getting picked up on media, and the news and everyone started talking about it and his past. Nicki ended up responding to the backlash by saying
he was 15, she was 16 in a relationship.
When all this stuff resurfaced and they're like, oh, she's a liar. The only thing that I got offended was because I felt like Nicki being another woman. It's okay if you love your man. It's okay if you accept his past for being his past. But I felt like she shouldn't have spoke on something that she didn't know about.
When all of this came out, it was on social media. According to Jenifer, this is when her cousin called her and let her know about what was going down on the internet.
She was living with Kenneth Petty's children's mother when all of this broke out. When Kenny first got with Nicki, I knew nothing about it because I wasn't on social media like that. She's the one who called me and said, are you sitting down? I'm like, yeah, why, what's up? She was like, oh, well, Kenny and Nicki, they're together now and they're talking about you in social media and what he did to you. And it was cool for her to hook me up with a lawyer in the beginning when all of this first hit the surface.
After this, Jenifer ends up talking on like a ghost IG page and basically responding to people in the comments, acting as someone else, because she wanted everyone to know that she was not in a relationship with Kenneth.
The person that sent it to Daily Mail in the blast was not Cory, it was me.
What?
Yes, it was me.
Now, a woman that goes by the handle K Ray seemed to be in communication with Jenifer.
When I was speaking to someone of the details, they were getting harassed and threatened at that point in time in 2018. But I am 100% sure that that is the same person back in 2018 that I had correspondence with. I know this 100% that it is the alleged victim.
Now, this was on Hot Shot Radio. Thing is, she mentioned she was getting harassed and threatened in 2018, which is weird because no one knew who Jenifer was at that time publicly. None of the Barbs or anyone knew, because there is no shred of evidence at all. And no one knew who Jenifer was until her cousin blasted her name on the internet, which we're gonna get into later. But anyway, it was K Ree who gave the information out.
So when I sent his court documents, because of the salacious comment the entertainer Nicki Minaj posted on her page, because she was being attacked by some of her, I'm gonna use this term loosely, her fans and other people about his record. When I saw that salacious comment stating that the victim was 100% Caucasian and she was advocating, saying that allegedly that Zoo was allegedly innocent and he wasn't guilty of what he did, and claimed that the victim was his girlfriend. So that prompted me of the investigation. She was not his girlfriend. So I relayed that message to both those blogs,
Daily Mail and The Blah. The thing is, how did she get her hands on it? And I believe that information would have been sealed due to their ages back in 1994.
And to a YouTuber at the time called Living Fearless.
Her interpretation was definitely different to what Jenifer has been telling everyone.
Okay, she was walking up to her house at night, and she felt something like going towards her neck, and he said, don't say nothing, move over here and keep going. With the knife pressed against her neck, he took her to this house, all right? I'm guessing it was abandoned, his homies. I don't know who it was. Anyway.
To be fair, they really got her looking like that. Y'all didn't give her no shred of evidence. You didn't give her no documentation. It was just word of mouth. Sunday seemed to have little arguments with Kenneth's baby mama, and every time they did, Jenifer will be brought up.
Something that came up, so it was like, okay, I need to get down to the bottom of it. We put Jennifer on three-way. Me and the baby mother, which she even had no idea.
And I don't know what conversations they had while Kenneth's baby mama was on the phone, but Sunday ended up calling her again with a lawyer friend of hers.
And then I called her again with a friend that I told her was a lawyer friend of mine. Just to hear her story out, like really giving her a chance, because I swore to my best friend, like, I don't know, like I don't know, I believe my cousin, because you want to believe your cousin, you want to believe the person from your household, you want to be supportive. When this girl said to me that second time that I allowed her to say that story, and she says, I mean, yeah, because I already was going on into it in the house, and this happened, and it was just, when I went to him, I was just so upset that he would treat me like that, already knowing what I've been through. Huh? Dude, when I called her in a lie, I had to leave my best friend alone. I told Jenifer, I said, let me tell you something. If he you, I said, he did his time. So why are you going about trying to use this as a story? What? If you and your whole family, you just saying that because, oh, you friends, you sleeping with the enemy. I'm like, what are you talking about? Sleeping with, oh, because you're with Zoo and you're with his. What are you talking about? Because my best friend is not even like, he's not somewhere where Zoo's over there every day and we all hanging out. It's not even that type of party.
Then on the 15th of December, Candace got reached out to on Instagram by her auntie. And according to Jen, some of the things that the auntie told Candace was exaggerated.
When I found out about the person that was working behind the scenes, that's a very money-hungry person, and when I heard her go to that blog with the story the first time, and that story sounded so phony, me and my family members, my neighbors, everybody was just looking at each other. We could not stop busting out laughing. We was like, this girl cannot be serious right now. I don't know, I recall her saying, he stabbed her in the stomach and she had the slice mark to prove. And I said, well, girl, I've been seeing you naked for years. I know you got a wound from having kids. Like, I couldn't stomach it, and that's when I was like, oh.
It was a family member who hit Candace at Tea Time Up, telling her a whole bunch of stuff, and then she reached out to me and I just wanted to clarify. And they kind of exaggerated the story a little bit, and I didn't feel comfortable with that. So I told Candace the truth.
Now Candace only uploaded 15 minutes of a longer interview. She didn't show the whole interview. And this was according to Crystal Nicole, because again, I have not seen these interviews, guys. These interviews have been taken down. Now after Daytime Tea Time's 15 minute of the interview was uploaded onto YouTube, now according to Jen, her step-cousin Sunday ended up texting her this.
$89 million that he could possibly lose. He already did his time. Stop acting like a victim. That she has his friends or blood coming and questioning her about this incident, and that he's a shooter, and that I didn't care anything about her being up there in New York. He thought that me and my aunt possibly got paid for talking to you.
Then 2 days after the interview was uploaded, Sunday ended up messaging Nicki Minaj on Instagram saying this. Kenny never R-worded my cousin, it was a lie, and she don't have a cut on her stomach. Trust me, I lived with her growing up on Inwood Street, though I always back and forward down south. I just saw a blog story from the 17th and I swore to leave social media alone. All this fabricated mess. My aunt who spoke to the blogs is miserable, and my grandmother who raised her is dead. So is her biological mom. I can't believe this story got so far. My aunt who gave info never liked my cousin from a child because my grandmother favored her. I know it was money the blog offered her to tell her lies, being she was the one who went with her to court and all. I don't believe he did it, neither should you. However, she was R-worded by others in her past. If you want to speak to me, your bestie TT knows me. I grew up next door to her kid's dad, who is very close friends of mine as well. I just rather remain behind closed doors because I don't want to be involved. However, I can't sit back and watch innocent man go down over money hungry liars. After Jenifer made it clear that she was not in a relationship with Kenneth, we had not heard from her for some time, until someone in her past or someone in her circle decided to go to Tasha K, who then in January the 3rd, 2019 decides to make a video sharing her sources' information, and she made it very clear that she felt that Jenifer was lying. Here are some of the main points that she said in her video.
Because in 1994, you 15 years old, you're dating a 16-year-old girl that everybody in the community says was your girlfriend. And she was upset. He didn't want her no more. They were arguing. Boom. Next thing you know, she was caught skipping school. Parents are not even her real parents, because her real parents, according to the sources, smoked crack as well. So she was living with another family. I don't know if they were foster family or whatever, but I know they were very religious. She got caught skipping school, hollered. Okay, and so because he was afraid at 15 years old, you locked up. They said you can either go to trial and face 25 years to life, or you could take this plea deal and get 4 years. And because he was 15, now this is what really blew my mind. You're 15 and they railroad him and make him register as a level 2 sex offender. Because yes, they did find semen in the girl, but apparently this girl was already having sex, and when the family found out, this is when shit hit the fan and she hollered motherfucker. Okay,
Now this is when Jenifer ends up doing another interview with Daytime Teen Time, aka Candace. It says here, the woman who got Kenneth Petty charged in 1994 finally speaks out on a new interview responding to information from a source who spoke to Tasha K. Now due to her cousin and her not getting along after her cousin felt that she was lying, Jenifer ends up throwing her cousin under the bus in this interview.
I don't even have anybody on my side that I can truly trust. Coming and questioning her about this incident and that he's a shooter and that I didn't care anything about her being up there in New York. And
now, is this the same? Is this the same person who said that they just want a house and a car out of this, or something like that?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's clear that she just wants financial gain from him continuing to be with Nicki Minaj.
Right, but her best friend is his children's mother.
Wait, so one of your family members' best friend is the baby mom of Kenny?
Yeah, before he linked up with Nicki, he dropped her off at the train station.
So is this just a huge plot for them to have a come up?
Look, listen, when I tell you, that's the reason why I've been afraid to say anything.
All of this first started when Daytime Tea Time and other YouTubers were talking about this situation with Kenneth Petty. Tasha K doxed Jenifer. She put her picture out there, even claimed it on her live. Like, I put your picture, I know who you are, and she always does that.
Couple months have passed, everything's quiet, then boom. In November 2019, during a traffic stop, law enforcement discovered that Petty had yet to register as a S offender in California. He moved to the state from New York according to his booking sheet, which ET previously obtained. This is when Wendy Williams ended up talking about Kenneth Petty. And she just said it like it was, giving her opinion on the whole situation.
You should have never married him. Because now you've ruined everything about what your brand could be. You're never gonna stand a chance when you're with a man who pulls a knife at point. Registered offender who wasn't even you're never going to stand a chance.
Nicki Minaj was not happy. She ended up responding, and this is what she said.
Something that he was wrongfully accused of doing when he was 15 years old, all because he didn't have $7,000 to get himself bailed out. Because when you in the hood at 15, you don't have that kind of money, and neither does your family. And when the alleged accuser wrote up a letter to the judge asking to recant these statements, she was told that she would go to jail for 90 days, allegedly, if she recants the statement. But white is right.
Kenny knows my mother is white. So that's an easy narrative to throw out there.
The problem with Nicki Minaj is she made it a whole race thing. White is right. Jenifer is not white.
But my father is black.
So I don't know if Nicki Minaj did this strategically, deliberately, knowing that she could get people's emotions wild up to side with Kenneth, or if that was something that Kenneth told Nicki Minaj and she repeated that out to the world. Jen decided to tell her daughter what had been happening in March 2020.
My mom calls me and I could tell that she was crying. I'm like, Mom, what's going on? She told me to go on the shade room and we see Nicki and her new man. And she was like, that's the one who did what he did when I was 16. And I was like, no. She was like, yeah.
Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty decided to send their associates to Jenifer and harass her.
It's not really hard for one of her people or one of Kenneth's people to hit one of my mom's brothers up and then hit my mother up. And it's not hard to get to what you need to get to.
For a 7-month span to get her to recant her story.
A lot of people was calling and saying that there's a lot of money involved.
Been harassed by people calling family members that I haven't even spoken to or seen.
In order to get him off of the offender registry.
So Kenneth, as you guys know, he got pulled over by the police. He was indicted for failing to register as a offender in California in March 2020, after which he self-surrendered. The US Marshals confirmed on social media at the time Petty was released on a $20,000 bond. Now, according to Jenifer, she ended up meeting with Black on the 3rd of the 8th. According to the Daily Beast, 4 days after Petty arrest in March, a man named Barry, aka Black, who Jenifer remembered had been close with her brother when they were all school age, reached out to her. Jenifer didn't think much of it at first when Barry mentioned Minaj and Petty, or even when he offered to make the fuss around the court case go away. But why would he ask that if that had nothing to do with Jenifer? It was Kenneth's court case. Jenifer's like, oh, I wish this could all just go away forever. And Black responded saying, I can make that happen.
I got a call and he said that he could connect me to them and make this go away. And when he said he could connect me to them, meaning Nicki and Kenny, and when he said he could make this go away, I thought the agreement was going to be, if I don't speak to anybody about them, they wouldn't speak to anybody about me. End of story.
Okay, so according to the court documents, Kenneth's side of things, he was contacted by an individual named Barry Dukes, also known as Black. My wife and I grew up in the same neighborhood with Black. Although we are not close to each other, to be absolutely clear, I would not and did not ask him to contact or communicate on my behalf with plaintiff. I did not know that Black was communicating with plaintiff until he asked me for my wife's phone number so that Jenifer and my wife could speak, although I gave Black my wife's phone number. Okay, so this is another thing which is really weird and very suspect. You said you're not really close. You're going to give this man that you're not close with Nicki Minaj's number. Okay, let's continue. I told him he should not communicate with Jenifer. Even if Jenifer recanted her false allegation of R word, this would not have affected the charges against me regarding my failure to register as an S offender, as the issue is whether I registered or not and why. A few days, Black called her and informed her that Nicki Minaj asked for her number and that he had given it to her.
Somebody from Nicki's party sent her the numbers and told her to call Nicki. Is that correct?
Yeah, so,
So a few days passed, right? Black ends up contacting Jenifer with a text message with a screenshot that said wifey, and he basically told Jenifer that Nicki Minaj will call her from this number. Okay, so what was really weird, right? The messages, the contact number that was sent to Jenifer had Bang Fendi on top. If you don't know who he is, he's Nicki Minaj's older manager.
Whoever Bang Fendi is, it didn't say Zoo, it said Bang Fendi. Whoever calls himself Bang Fendi called Nicki his wife. Sent to Black, and Black sent it to me and said, yo, Nicki wants you to have her number.
But it was confirmed by Kenneth Petty that he actually gave the number to Black. And it is a possibility that he purposely did this to hide his involvement. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section below, but let's continue.
Hey, yo, Nicki wants your number. Is it okay if I give it to her, or do you want me to do it on 3? That's how it was asked. And I was like, no, you could give it to her. It's fine.
Spoken to Nicki directly?
I did. She called me.
Then, on the 3rd of the 9th, the next month, according to Jenifer, this is when Nicki Minaj called her.
I got a phone call from Nicki Minaj herself.
She said that she got word that I was willing to help them out in a situation. I didn't understand what she was referring to.
Now, according to Nicki Minaj in her court documents, she said, while I did in fact speak once on the telephone with Jenifer, she has misrepresented both how the call came about and what said during our call. My husband was arrested in March 2020 for failing to register as a S offender in California based upon his 1995 conviction for the attempted R word of Jenifer. Obviously, as any wife would be, I was upset and concerned for him. A few days after the arrest, Barry, an old acquaintance from Queens neighborhood in which we grew up and knows to all of us as Black, reached out to me to say that plaintiff wanted to speak to me about what happened in 1994. I did not call plaintiff. Rather, as I recall what happened, Black connected the plaintiff and me through his phone. So it looked like he called Jenifer and connected in like some type of three-way.
If I give it to her, or do you want me to do it on three? That's how. To her, or do you want me to do it on three? Do it on three? Do it on three? Do it on three?
And apparently, allegedly, these messages were between Black and Jenifer while she was on the phone with Nicki Minaj. As any wife would do in this situation, I told her that I had been informed that she wanted to speak with me about taking back her accusation. So, Black has been having this conversation with Nicki, telling her how Jenifer wants to take it back. However, right from the start and throughout our call, I made it clear to her and that I was not asking her to change her past statement. I never offered her any money. I have no doubt that Jenifer had wanted to speak with me because she mistakenly believed that I would pay her money to take back her accusation against my husband. While Jenifer never asked me directly to pay off to change her story, she did so indirectly by telling me that the indictment against my husband was a big problem for him and for me. In an effort to make it unmistakably clear that I was not going to pay her money, I responded by telling her that the indictment was my husband's problem, not mine, and that he would have to live with the consequences of having chosen years ago to plead guilty to a crime which he did not commit.
She offered to fly me and my family to LA. I turned it down, and I told her, woman to woman, this really happened.
Then Nicki said, after I made it clear to her that I was not going to pay her money, Jenifer told me that she would think about what she wanted to do. Then referring to her claim that my husband had R-worded her, she said verbatim, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but maybe it was just a misunderstanding. I could not believe what I had just heard. I could not believe that it was so easy for this woman to imply that she may have exaggerated or lied after how much this man has suffered through as such a young boy. Even then though, I did not pressure her in any way.
So she said that she could send her publicist Joe out to where I was living at the time, meet with me and talk with me about the situation.
I declined. The last thing I said to Nicki before I hung up was, I need you to know, woman to woman, this really happened. She didn't say anything. She told me that if there was anything that I needed from her, that I can call her because I had her personal number. I never used it.
And I hadn't spoken to her since.
Now, Nicki Minaj made it clear, according to the court docs, I never called plaintiff, nor did I ever want to speak to her. I spoke to her only because Black told me that she had asked to speak to me. Further, during the call, I never asked her to change her story. I never offered her any money in return for a statement, and I did not threaten her with any type of harm if she chose not to provide a statement. In fact, I empathetically told her that I did not want her to lie about anything and to tell the truth about what she had just revealed to me, only if she was comfortable with doing so. Now, according to the court documents, over the next few days, Jenifer and her family were harassed by phone and unsolicited visitors in her house in Georgia. But there was no evidence provided of these unsolicited visitors. As well as that, Jenifer has never mentioned in any interview that she has done that she had unsolicited visitors. The only visitor that she ever had was Black. And there's no details of these visitors coming to visit her as well in these court documents.
They came looking for me and they used my family to do it.
After that phone call with Nicki, the only contact I had was from street goons. I think she has somebody in her camp called Ganks.
Gangs, listen.
He was contacting family members. There was a lot of numbers as far as money being offered, but it was never offered from Nicki and it was never offered from Kenny personally. It was just people speaking on behalf of Kenny.
It was a cousin. Some people from New York reached out to him and I'm like, how they reach out to you to get in contact with me? Like, how would they know that?
Instead, Jenifer has said to her brother, with whom she is not particularly close, called within days of her conversation with Minaj to tell her that a man named Jamie from New York had called their cousins in North Carolina, offering $500,000 if Jenifer spoke with the lawyer representing Petty. She never called the lawyer. Now, according to the court documents, a few days after Minaj called Jenifer, Jenifer's brother called her. He stated 2 people reached out to family members stating that there was an offer of $500,000 from Minaj if Jenifer wrote a letter recanting her R-word claim against Petty. Jenifer hung up, distraught that Minaj instructed her associates to contact her brother and that her brother would even relay such a message. Now, in the court documents, Nicki Minaj confirmed that she did not directly approve or know anyone that supposedly was offering members of Jenifer's family $500,000 in return for her to write a letter recanting her accusation against Kenneth. She also claims that in a likely event that anyone engaged in that conduct, it was without her knowledge or even approval. And she states, obviously, if I wanted to pay Jenifer money to secure a statement from her, I would have made that offer myself during a call or thereafter. And Kenneth also says, I never obtained counsel for Jenifer, and I'm unaware of anyone I know obtaining counsel for Jenifer, nor would I ever done so. I never stalked Jenifer or any of her relatives, and I do not know where any of them live today. Now, according to Jenifer, there was a reason why they were involved. As for why Jenifer's brother and former neighbors, which is interesting, we never heard her in any other interview talk about neighbors, was so invested in Minaj and Petty's legal affairs, Barry Black wanted the rapper to appear at his daughter's 16th birthday party, she said. Her brother and cousin, meanwhile, allegedly wanted Minaj to do a walkthrough promotion at a club so they could split the profits. This act by Minaj and associates caused plaintiff to panic because Black, who was in contact with Minaj, now know where plaintiff lived, where plaintiff were, and the identity of plaintiff's kids. But she seemed to continue talking to Barry. She ends up asking Barry about this offer. According to the Daily Beast, she said, when asked about the offer, Barry allegedly denied the money could have come from Minaj or Petty. Jenifer recalled him insisting that Petty had no money, and Minaj wouldn't give Petty the money either. So I was confused as to how all of this was happening around me, she said. I'm like, you say Nicki's not involved, but she's the one who called me. Barry, meanwhile, allegedly wanted Jenifer to write a letter recanting her R-word allegation from 1994. She didn't want to do that either, but unlike her brother and cousin, Barry now knew where she lived. That made her nervous. Rather than say no outright and risk retaliation, Jenifer said she will stall Barry by expressing worry over being dragged back into the court or even prosecuted. Barry allegedly began sending her information on the New York Statute of Limitation and insisting that she could not get in trouble, and even had her speak with multiple lawyers in order to convince her. So basically, to stall Barry, she's talking to all these lawyers, which is pretty interesting that she will go through such length to avoid retaliation by speaking to all these lawyers, spending energy and time on it.
The tactics that they're taking is always a Mac, right? It's always somebody from a blood gang.
Now, after all this came out, Jenifer released some receipts of what it seems like to be a TikTok, and unfortunately I could not find them. I also did ask Jenifer herself on her Instagram if she could clarify, but during the time, I'm assuming when this situation was going on, these are messages between Jenifer and her brother. It says, Jen, they said they're not budging off at 600. He's gonna try to get 700. Son sent me that yesterday. So I don't know if Sun is short for Sunday or if Sun is another nickname of someone that they know. Now, to me, looking at this, I don't know what Jenifer was trying to prove, but it looks like she wanted to know how much money could be made. And it just looks like that she was also interested in making money. Nicki Minaj sent lawyers and investigators to Jenifer's home, according to the court documents. So it was actually Black, aka Barry, who was getting these lawyers and investigators to contact her.
Black was trying to convince me that there would be no repercussions if I recant. There's no way I'd go to jail. There's no way that they will come after me after the fact, that there's no way that I commit perjury. So along with him sending me statute of limitations, he would put me on the phone with attorneys, right? He would say, yo, I got an attorney, because I would say, listen, I need to speak to a lawyer.
In April 2020, on behalf of Petty, face finder investigators Charles from Georgia contacting Jenifer.
He is with the Middlestaff firm. He does all sorts of criminal defense investigating.
Now, here are the messages between Charles and Jenifer, and I'm going to try to summarize this the best way that I can. He basically says, hello, Jenifer, introducing himself, and made it very clear that he was talking to Black, and just tried to call you and want to straight the voicemail, blah, blah, blah. Jenifer's like, I apologize, late response. Jenifer basically then asked her whose side is she's on. Are you Black's lawyers, Nicki lawyers, Kenneth's lawyer, if you don't mind me asking? And he says, I'm no one's lawyer. I'm an investigator working with Kenneth's attorneys in LA. I don't represent anybody. I'm simply a fact finder.
He does it all. He's been involved in government stuff, massive investigations with regard to very high-profile clients, helping defense attorneys.
I will have a New York-based lawyer available for you to speak, and my intentions are to address any and all concerns you might have before we get into anything substantial. He's coming across as, okay, I know you want to retract your statement, we can help you with that, etc. Because I'm assuming that's what Black would have told them, just like what he told Nicki Minaj. Because that's because Jenifer wanted to stall Barry. Remember, she said she wanted to keep him stalled because of retaliation, but yet these lawyers are coming from Nicki Minaj and Kenneth. No, it's coming from Black because you wanted to stall him. And here she basically says that she doesn't want to be blindsided, that if she could afford a lawyer, she will get one, and that she will appreciate Charles being honest to her. And she wants to know, is this conversation going to be recorded? Charles is like, I completely understand. I'm happy to put you directly in contact with a lawyer who does not represent Kenneth, but Kenneth Lee is being paid by his defense team in order to give you advice as to any possible exposure for you, which is conflict of interest, unless they all think, oh, she wants to retract the statement, because that's what Black is telling them. He is ethically obligated to give you sound legal advice based upon his knowledge of New York's laws. He's basically reassuring her that everyone's interest is ensuring her comfortability before making any sort of statements, like aka retracting. So she's saying, so any statement I make to you is getting recorded. He says we can certainly speak on the record preliminarily, but ultimately the goal would be to get you on a record, possibly even have you commit whatever your statement is in another format, that all that can be discussed. The first step is to make sure that you understand and that you are satisfied with the fact that you can no longer be prosecuted for recanting, and I agree, in perfect world it would be best if you could afford your own attorney to get this advice. He's basically saying that he can get one for her and basically trying to convince her that there will be no downside talking to their lawyer that they have available.
So when Black would put me on the phone with these attorneys, I would ask them, like, these people want me to lie. That's what you want? Oh, legally I can't give you advice because we represent him. We were under the impression there was something you wanted to tell us. Yes, I want to tell you that these niggas want me to lie. And in Black, he'd send me a statute of limitations for misdemeanor. He'd send me a statute of limitations for a felony, have you, until I got to Ian Wallach.
He put Jenifer in contact with an attorney named Attorney Wallace from New York. Now, what people they actually sent to Jenifer's house, I don't know. The only person that we know that went to her was Black. And this sounds like it was an invite, because the only way Black will get her address is by her. It's not like random people were going up to her house. So it's really weird how they worded that to make it look like, look, people are going to her house, and again, there is no shred of evidence of this. Minaj's legal team hired Attorney Wallace to give Jenifer legal advice about recanting her statement. Attorney Wallace stated he was the plaintiff's lawyer, and anything said to him was protected under the attorney-client privilege. Jenifer did not know Attorney Wallace and had not contacted him for a legal service.
And I spoke to him April 24th. I believe that was the day that I reached out to him. One main question, anything I tell you right now, will you go back and tell these people? He told me no. I told him right away what was happening. And he said he would instruct them to leave me alone. I guess his instruction was only to Charles Middlestart, which was the fact finder, because I didn't hear any more from Charles Middlestart.
Now, according to Nicki Minaj's declaration, she did not direct or approve or know about anything supposedly sending from Charles Middlestart or Ian Wallace, nor did she even know them. She even stated that she's not saying what Jenifer said is true, but regardless, she did not direct or approve or know about any of the supposed actions of others which are in Jenifer's complaint. Now, this is also in Peter Kenny's declaration, but he doesn't say, like Nicki Minaj did, that he did not know who those individuals are. Now, if Jenifer has solid evidence that Ian Walsh did contact her and said that he was representing Nicki Minaj, she doesn't even know who he is, why would he lie? And was this a quick cash grab? Were they trying to gather as much evidence and information to make a package and try to sell it to Kenneth and Nicki Minaj, high profile individuals, and be like, hey, we can help him get off the hook. We have her recantment, etc. Could that be a possibility? Are they ethically operating or are they not? Or was it people pretending to be this guy to gather this recantment from Jenifer? I just have so many questions, and I guess this will be a forever mystery because Ian and Charles have not responded about this situation to the public.
But I heard from other attorneys who will call me and tell me that they knew about this supposed letter that I had written oh so long ago, and they were contacting me because they were trying to get him taken off of the registry. And I told that attorney while I was standing in my brother's garage, you're the attorney, do whatever it is that you gotta do, but leave me out of it.
Now, sometime after this, there is no actual timeline, but we do know it is before Jenifer got offered the $20,000, which we'll get into, keep watching. But there was a FaceTime between Black and Jenifer. But unfortunately, we do not have the full recording. We only have bits and pieces, which I'll also explain why later on if you keep watching. But this is what we have.
You lie under oath, and regardless if I made a statement or didn't make a statement, that is the reason why I stood up in court. And I said, when a judge asks, like, yo, does anybody have anything to say before he is sentenced? I stood up and I said, Your Honor, I'm the person who pressed the charges. I would like to drop the charges. I made a huge mistake. Wow. This was like, I'm in court in front of his family, in front of friends, in front of everybody, like, whatever. And they was like, take it to the DA, and nobody wanted to hear shit.
Because he probably didn't have a paid lawyer at that time.
Well, I don't know how much good gonna come from that.
I'm saying that'll be like a load off of other people. You know what I'm saying? Me thinking how I think about shit. Like that'll be a good faith where niggas you don't even gotta do all this other stuff. You know what I mean?
Be professional or like a lawyer or something. You need to what to write.
But did they say if you recant your story you're gonna go to jail?
No.
When you wrote the letter, when you wrote the letter and gave it to the DA, what did they say?
I wrote the letter, I gave it to the DA, and then I showed up at court. Oh. And I stood up.
You know it's statute of limitation. It is
no statute of limitation on perjury.
Yeah, Cory wrote a letter, and what you said in the letter though? That was
that I was pressured to press charges against him, and that I wanted to drop the charges. I didn't want him to go to jail. I was young. I was 16. You know, my words weren't. You know what I'm saying? Like, shut up. The judge specifically said, take it to the DA. And everybody looked at the DA, and the DA shook her head like, it's not happening. Like,
because they didn't want you to go to court because you recanted your story. You told them it never happened. XYZ. You was young. You was pressured. Correct, right?
Yeah.
So that's why. Yeah, babe. So that's probably why they was so thirsty because they knew the case would have fell through the roof. Because if you'd have said that.
Because that conversation happened right before he put the $20,000 on my lap. I was trying to get rid of them. The last incident was when one of their associates put $20,000 on my lap.
After that, Black continued to receive and relay messages from Kenneth to Jenifer. For a while, Jenifer ignored Black's calls, and then she finally answered, and he tells her that he had good news. Nothing would happen to Jenifer if she signed and notarized some papers in his possession. This was also a FaceTime call, and there's images of this FaceTime call of him showing to what appears to be $15,000. Shortly after the call, Black appeared at Jenifer's home. So Jenifer, to protect her children in her home, she met Black at the front of the house in his car. While in the car, Black pulled out a green colored folder that had documents inside. This document was a written, recanted statement prepared for Jenifer to sign. But according to Jenifer's YouTube video, she said that she was offered to actually write the letter and not sign it.
This mutual person offered me $20,000 to write a letter stating that I lied about what I did. I lied about Kenny assaulting me.
I don't think there's anything malicious. I personally think that's just a mistake. Black then pulls out $20,000 out of the armrest and places it on Jenifer's lap. Barry allegedly told her he'd recoup his money on the back end.
He thought that he'd be doing Kenny a street favor and they would repay him later.
And apparently her daughter witnessed this as well.
I'm pulling up with my girl. I'm witnessing a mother putting 20 bands cash on my mother's lap. 20 bands? Like, are you serious? My mom put it right back.
And according to the court documents, Black even said that Nicki would also send a happy birthday video to Jenifer's daughter for her birthday as a bonus. And I held it in my hands and I put it on the floor in the passenger seat. And I told him, I'm not taking it, I don't want it.
I didn't want to do it.
It was right around this moment that it became clear to Jenifer just how little Barry, who she trusted, even though she wanted to, you know, keep him stalled because of retaliation, because of his old bond with her brother, actually cared about her well-being. It was like, this dude, he really doesn't give two ifs about me, she said. It's like, damn, don't you know I'm a mother of 4? Don't you know I have kids? These are things I'm saying to him. And to have him come back to me and tell me, well, you know how many girls can say that I probably R-word them. So according to the court documents, Kenneth's side, he also said, to be clear, I never gave Black my money, much less $20,000 to offer Jenifer. That being said, I did not know Black tried to pretend that he was acting on behalf of my wife and me, given my wife's celebrity. However, it would not be surprising that someone who grew up with us would try to make a connection to my wife by coming to her after the fact to take credit for having a problem solved, which he was never asked to solve. In our world, people would pay far more than $20,000 to cultivate a relationship with her. I never obtained counsel for Jenifer, and I am unaware of anyone I know obtaining counsel for Jenifer, nor would I ever done so. As a result of these unsolicited calls, contacts, pop-up visits, and communications, Jenifer started having nightmares and panic attacks. The memories began to flood back from the day of Kenny R-wording her, and she began to experience anger, pain, sorrow, anxiety, and trust issues. She started having crying fits and thoughts of paranoia. This is when her brother ended up calling her. Beginning of June, Jenifer became more fearful when she received a call from her brother who spoke frantically.
And be like, yo, you okay? Yo, I just had such and such call me, real worried about you, and said that they know what my daughter does, and don't be surprised if they're sitting on my couch.
Jenifer assumed he was referring to, as she'd been told, the OGs from the neighborhood working for Petty.
If I'm hearing these names, some nigga named Jamie, some nigga named Ganks, those are the two. Who the name is Ganks but a gangster? Reaching out to my family members, and this is my little brother calling me like, yo, they said they know where you live at,
and threatened to have someone else show up at Jenifer's house if she didn't recant 1994's R-word claim. That marked the first time Jenifer would move within her home state at the time, Georgia, and changed her phone number out of fear for her safety. Jenifer has not worked since May of 2020 due to the severe depression, paranoia, constant moving, harassment, and threats from the defendant and their associates. At this point, Jenifer had no idea what to do. I didn't know who to call, she said. Who do I call? I don't want to go to the cops, get them locked up, because then what would they do to me? Then what would happen to me? Now, instead of having this person after me, I'm gonna have them and their family and their friends after me. It was chaos.
People going to jail, I wasn't thinking about any of that, because I'm looking at it like, okay, he can go to jail, but that doesn't mean his friends won't come after me or his family won't come after me, and I didn't want to look over my shoulder every day.
The last message I received was that I should have taken the money because they're going to use that money to put on my head. And then I cut off everything, changed my numbers.
After receiving this threat, Jenifer moved in June of 2020. She changed her number, registering for a new number under her husband's name. These efforts by Jenifer were unsuccessful in curbing the harassment and unwanted contact. Shortly after changing her number, Jenifer was contacted by a lawyer who was instructed to reach out to her by defendant Minaj. Jenifer became so paranoid and she moved again in August 2020.
I moved multiple times.
It says in late August, Jenifer moved to another home in Georgia after lawyers working for Petty called a phone number she registered under her assumed name days after she moved in.
We've had to move 3 different places, y'all, within the city that we live in. Because some way, somehow, it's just somebody knew where the f we were.
I have since had the U.S. Marshals come track me down.
In August, Jenifer ended up getting contacted by the Marshals. And according to Nicki Minaj, Jenifer tried to scare money out of her. But it was actually an online friend of Jenifer who made the call. Speaking to the Daily Beast on the condition of anonymity, the friend said that they had actually been a huge fan of Nicki Minaj before the rapper coupled with Petty, and they read about his history. As Minaj claimed Petty had been falsely accused and that he and his victim had been in a relationship, the Source, pre-law student, decided they wanted to help get justice for the woman he assaulted. The Source didn't know who Jenifer was at first. Their first contact with authorities came in the summer of 2019 when they alerted the NYPD that Petty had appeared on social media holding a gun and failed to update his address for people who are registered as ex-offenders. That August, the Source emailed the U.S. Attorney prosecution for a federal case against Petty for not registering as an ex-offender and relayed the information Jenifer had shared about the harassment she was facing. That same month, they said they also spoke to the U.S. Marshal and that the ATV agent about the gun incidents and asked them to check on Jenifer, who they had not heard from in months. I said if she doesn't want to talk to me, that's fine, but please just lay eyes on her or contact her and just make sure that she's alive, they said. The U.S. Marshal showed up at her then husband's job and told him they need to speak with her. They've been separated ever since. When the Marshals arrived at her home, Jenifer began to panic. They said they'd been informed she was being harassed to recant, but she had no idea how they gotten involved. She even texted Minaj in the hopes that she could find out what was going on. I didn't know if she was trying to help me out. I didn't know if she was trying to set me up, Jenifer said. I don't know if the people around me were trying to set me up. Jenifer was even offered witness protection. Now, according to Nicki Minaj, said this text message completely contradicts Jenifer's false claim that I had threatened her or that she was in fear of me because of the amendment complaint alleges that by August of 2020, Jenifer and her family had been threatened by people supposedly working on my behalf, which never happened, and had changed her address because she was afraid of her safety. But if this were true, she would have never had sent me a text asking for help because law enforcement had come to her door. That is the last thing someone who was supposedly being threatened by supposed gang members would do. But it's the first thing suggesting that there was a danger of criminal charges that someone who is looking for a payoff would do. This is a good point. Jenifer has moved multiple times. She feels threatened, paranoid, one phone call, and she's moving straight away, even changing her number, especially a text message that is worded like this.
People approaching my daughter.
Some nigga, when I'm leaving now, short, light-skinned nigga, steps in front of me and he was like, yo, you look mad familiar. I said, no, I'm not familiar. I said, you don't know me. I'm not even from here. Where you from? I said, where you from? He said, I'm from Queens. I said, oh shit, me too. He said, who are your people? I told him my people's last name and then he just named them. He named my mother. He named all her brothers. As soon as he said all of their names, he gave me a hug and he was like, yeah, you family. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, nigga, you just hugged me. Okay, so now I just let you into my spirit just a little bit, okay? And before I left off, he was like, so you know Zoo. And as soon as this mother said that, I turned the in the club. I was about to kill him.
Then her best friend ended up intervening.
I mean, she was like, yo, this is not what we doing. Because people start pulling out their phones. Like, I just start going off in this nigga. And she was like, you already know the situation. It's to the point where my best friend knows that this is not what we need right now.
There is actually no video evidence of this situation happen that I know of that has been released to the public, which have led people on the internet believing that the story was made up.
Yeah, it's been pretty awful.
Jenifer had been out of town when she returned. She decided that as long as she and Kenya lived in the same city, her daughter would never be able to lead a normal life. So she ends up leaving the States with her 5-year-old daughter.
I have moved 4 times.
She just felt like if she left the situation and she wasn't around her kids could live a normal life without having any type of conflict in it if she was in her kid's life. She also said that it might have not been the best thing to do, but at the time I didn't know what else to do.
Relocated away from my children because I didn't want anything to come back and affect them.
This came to the point where now I can't even walk in the house and say, hey mom, we've moved to 3 different places since the shit surfaced because we're getting death threats.
She mentioned that she received death threats, but unfortunately it's never elaborated on. What type of threats? Is it threats that you were just getting from the Barbs? or these are people that are trying to get your mother to recant her story. She never went into detail of what type of threats that she was getting, nor did she ever show any type of evidence of these threats that she claimed to be getting. Then September came and Jenifer finally felt at peace.
I haven't been contacted by any lawyers. I haven't been contacted by any fact finders since the end of September. I left Georgia. I haven't been back in Georgia. Nobody has reached out to me and said anything to me. Nobody has called my phone with crazy antics or whatever have you. I feel like that's because I chose to say something. Everybody kind of backing up now. If it helps me, like, you know, getting people off my back, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with the fact of me saying something and people leaving me alone.
But it seemed like Jenifer had some antics of her own in October 2020. I know this happened during October due to Lovely T's video, which was uploaded on the 2020, the 12/03, when she talks about a comment that was left under Gossip Girl's videos on her YouTube channel.
This was 2 months ago. Y'all see that here. The victim is being harassed to this day, and all because this dude didn't register when he moved to Cali. His team is trying to get her to recant her story from way back then. This is 26 years later. She has to hide all over again. When this first happened, she had to leave NY because of the threats. Now it's happening again. That was from 2 months ago, okay?
And guess whose account that was? It was Jenifer's account. Jenifer made that post through her own account, talking as if she was another person talking about her experience. Why? And we know it's her YouTube channel because it's the same YouTube channel that the YouTubers interacted with when she was live on Hot Shot Radio. Now in November 2020, that's when Jenifer ends up uploading her video onto YouTube. According to the court docs, Jenifer put a YouTube video out speaking about everything she had been going through in hopes of creating a digital footprint just in case something was to happen to her.
I honestly, truly do not care what happens between Nicki and whoever she chooses to marry or be with. If they're happy, I want them to be happy. I just want them to leave me alone. I want his lawyers to stop calling me, people to stop harassing me. I have since heard that because I chose not to take the money that they offered, that they are offering that money for my head. I have no true knowledge of how real this is. At 16, I was being threatened and harassed to drop the charges, and now I'm being threatened and harassed to recant my story.
She uploaded this in November, but remember she said that in September 2020, she hasn't been harassed. So why is she trying to create a digital footprint in the sense of telling Nicki Minaj to tell her people to leave her peoples alone when it's September nothing was happening? Why act like it's happening at that current moment? Why not just word it properly and say, hey guys, I'm leaving a digital footprint. I'm in fear of my life due to these situations. But instead, she's acting as if it is currently happening. Bloggers caught wind of this YouTube video and began victim shaming her, telling their audiences that Jenifer was lying, that she was just a white woman trying to make a quick dollar out of the limelight. Nicki Minaj's fans claimed Nicki said it was a lie, so it's a lie. Then in December the 2nd, 2020, Jenifer's name ended up being doxxed by her cousin. So it all started when a YouTuber by the handle of Nosy Hoax was live, and she was basically answering the questions that people had for Jenifer regarding her video, and she emailed Jenifer and had correspondence. While Nosy Hoax was live, Sunday was actually in the chat and had a few things to say. She was saying, emailing them lies takes long to load, huh? Pathetic. She responded to someone saying, Shay, Bri, I grew up in the house with her and it was my grandma who raised her, so enter. Nobody on here knows what I know, so I'm just here eating popcorn. Oh, but the whole hood knows her BC, which I think she meant to say keyword for JJ. Well, I'm not a Barb. I'm peed off about the fact she keeps. And I don't know what was after that. A couple minutes in, Jenifer ends up entering the chat and her and Sunday end up going back and forward. She says, Sunday, I effing hate you. You are far as F for real. For what you're doing. You ain't shot to me. Hope I never see you. Sunday says, girl, need to stop. LeMayo, I said I grew up with her. So I guess she's also responding to other people. Jenifer says she's supposedly supposed to be my effing cousin. Sunday goes, calling my family a foster home. I'm tired of the lies. Well, technically, that is a foster home. That's not a lie. She was adopted. So what would you call it? An adoption home? Like, Sunday says, yes, my grandma raised her. She then says, F you, Sharon. Jenifer ends up calling Sunday's first name out. Now, I haven't seen any evidence of Jenifer's name getting called out, but this is according to witnesses and what people have said. They said that Sunday has also called her name out. So I don't know who did it first, but I do have Jenifer calling Sunday's first name out, Sharon. And I don't know if that was after because her name got doxxed. Sunday Day says, I'm saying she's not telling the whole truth. Jenifer says, it was cool when you wanted money though. I'm upset because my grandma worshipped the ground she walked on and she can't speak out, but it's harmful. Don't play with me. Just drop her back off at the same house you said she was R-word. Girl, I just want to clear my family's name. Then Jenifer ends up jumping live, calling Sunday out.
She feels like I shouldn't speak about it. Why? Because she was in New York hanging with that nigga before he met up with Nicki. So to see her in the comments, not only is she in the comments talking shit, but she's giving my name. First came out, she was cool with hooking me up with a lawyer. She was cool with asking me for a house and a car. She's the one who told me about all of this when it first started. And it was cool for her to hook me up with a lawyer in the beginning when all of this first hit the surface. But because now she's up in New York, she's hanging out with Nicki Minaj's best friend. She's hanging out with people in the neighborhood who are associated with Kenny and Nicki. So now she wants me to shut up. Now she wants me to be quiet.
See, I don't even do this. I usually don't do this, but I'm just sick of the lies. We're talking about somebody that's delusional, super delusional. I grew up in a house with her. Jenifer, let me tell you something, homegirl. My grandmother's spirit and your mother Heather's spirit, I know they're so upset with you right now. You're going too far. When I called you, you're right. I did call you and let you know what was going on. I had no idea you was going to use it as an excuse to go and try to get you a bag. You need to cut it out. You really need to before you get yourself hurt out here, homegirl. Like,
by who? By who? By who? By who? You're the only one spreading. You are the only one spreading the news about me getting hurt.
Okay, hold on for a
you.
second. Sunday. That you already told Jenifer, did you forget that you already told me that Kenny was your man and that you were upset? What happened to you?
Now this seems to be a conclusion that Sunday has jumped into because Jen never told her specifically.
She says, I mean, yeah, because I already was going on into it in the house and this happened and it was just, when I went to him, I was just so upset that he would treat me like that, already knowing what I've been through.
So she's actually putting words in Jenifer's mouth. But it is a possibility that Jenifer knew exactly what she was actually talking about. Because instead of Jenifer actually denying it, she ends up throwing a fallacy to take the pressure off her and directing things directly to Sunday.
How much did they pay you, Sharon? How much did they pay you, Sharon? How much did they pay you? It must be nice going to New York Fashion Week, right? It must be nice going to all those things that you've been going to, that you've had privilege and access to. Correct? Correct?
New York Fashion Week for her hair like that?
It just so happened that you're hanging out with all of these people and you feel like you're special now. How about you go take care of your kids, Sharon? How about that?
Jenifer then throws another fallacy. This is called an ad hominem fallacy. This is by attacking Sunday personally instead of addressing the claim that Kenneth was her man.
How about that? How about you go take care of your kids? Almost 40 years old, and you have, listen, you can't tell my story. You can't tell my story because you wasn't there.
And because of this, Sunday ends up getting distracted and starts pulling irrelevant things that don't matter in the argument that they're having. Like how Jenifer is dropping her daughter at her auntie's house. She's getting distracted and it's taking the focus off her accusations and what she is saying on the live.
You wasn't there. You wasn't there. You wasn't there. Let's stick to the subject at hand. We're talking about Kenneth Petty. We're not talking about Inwood Street. We're not talking about the house that I grew up in. We're talking about this nigga, the nigga that you've been running with, the nigga whose ass you've been so all up his ass. Wasn't you living with his baby mother Chanel? Wasn't you posting pictures on social media? This nigga, when you thought you was gonna get paid? Fuck out of here. You are irrelevant. You are irrelevant, and if I see you on the street, you can mark my words, I'ma whoop your mother ass. How about that?
Okay, Sunday Grayson. Sunday. I had to
Yeah,
mute you.
look,
I had to mute
you look like trash. Who house you living in now? Who couch you sleeping on?
Everybody that knows me know I go get my own picture.
Who couch you sleeping on? Who couch you sleeping on?
Are you serious?
Who couch you sleeping on? With me. You want to see? You want to see my daughter? You want to see? Let me explain something to you. I got 3 grown kids. 3 grown kids, and my little baby is right here. What? I got my kids. You mad? You mad because Donna had my daughter and not your kids? Where your kids at? The out of here. You can't tell my story because it happened to me. And yeah, I was in your house, in your grandmother's house. I was from the age of 4 up until I left in your grandmother's house. You right. By your uncle, I was by him from 6 to 13, and your sister me too. Now, you want to talk about some shit? Let's talk about that. I was a light-skinned girl being abused in your house. Yeah, that was me. And when Kenny's parents came to the house and lied and said that I was with that nigga, I ain't never been with that nigga. Ever. You can't tell my story. You can't speak for me. No, I do have family.
Point blank period. You can say what you want to say.
Yo, go brush your teeth. Go wash your face. Go wash your face.
So after the incident, it seems like nothing was resolved. Maybe now it has been resolved behind the scenes, but it is unclear. And apparently, according to Jennifer, Sunday has had a relationship with Black, who he used as an instrument to get to me, then threaten me. Now, according to the Daily Beast, 3 days later, Jennifer made a tearful video. Now, unfortunately, I do not know what was said, and when I click on the link, there is no video available. So I'm guessing she took down this video. Around this time, Jennifer started doing interviews with YouTubers like Hotshot Radio. Him and Nosy Hoes and others started pushing the movement of surviving the petty. Cory around this time came out doing interviews as well and exposing messages between him and Kenneth, which seemed to be cut into pieces, so we'll never really understand the context behind these messages. Then him and Kenneth's sister end up going back and forward on what I believe to be his old Instagram page in the comments. One of the responses being, if he was a real friend when my mother died, instead of sending flowers, he said hate. Whether I live or die, he know I'm serious about what I said. Y'all my family, yes, but my brother has to be taught a valuable lesson. Loyalty equals love equals royalty. All this could have been stopped when she died, but no, he sent hate instead of flowers, which I feel is real disrespectful. So well, all things is fair, no tell y'all, and I'm not gonna read the rest. But he also released a conversation between Nicki Minaj, I'm assuming his sister, and from what people were saying on Twitter, this was Nicki Minaj trying to do some damage control to stop Cory from speaking out.
No, but both of y'all screaming. Y'all, listen, this is what I want you to understand. Because you know why? Because see, everybody know everybody gangster. We all know that. Okay, I'm a businesswoman now. Absolutely, but outside of damage control, let's just forget it. Let's just forget all the fame and all that shit for a second. I'm just talking to you as this is a sister.
Now, after reading this post on Instagram from Cory, it really made me think that he used the whole Jennifer situation as a pawn to get back at Kenneth.
So having to come out to speak about this because I feel like my mother is by herself. Okay, I have my mom looking through comments of people and their opinions of how they think the story went. Thinking she's a white woman, thinking she's this, calling her a slut, a hoe, a bitch, a liar. You understand, like, she didn't have to deal with this shit for 26 years, but that's just deep. People saying that they know who I am. I'm being watched. I have messages on my old Facebook as to why I made a new Facebook. Talking about, I know your mother. These are people who are digging for my mom to change her whole story.
Now, on the 2nd of January, Jennifer and her brother were sending messages between each other. Jennifer's brother says, I only have one of you. There is no one who can ever come between that. How much do you think it hurts my heart to feel that I have to express it? Jen, on the real, all I was trying to say was Jay is in our corner. Which is Jamie, right? How the F is he in our corner? Didn't he contact you to get me to recant? That's not in my corner. He wasn't thinking about me when he involved himself. No, he didn't. He was just a mediator. He had no problem negotiating numbers for Kenny. He really don't know you. Exactly, but yeah, he still involved himself in ish. He had no business. All because he's friends with Zoo. He only was trying to squash whatever. To my knowledge, he's not. Squash what? Just send someone from the hood. He knows Mom Dukes, he knows Pops. When Ish came across him, all he was doing was seeing if there was anything to talk about. When I told him you wasn't effing with with any of it, he said cool.
I had just got a phone call from my brother, the one who had spoke to Jamie and Gang. And now all of a sudden my brother's calling me and he's trying to, speak for Jamie, like clear Jamie's name. Like, oh, he was only a mediator. He was only trying to see if there was anything, when this was brought to him, he was only trying. And it hurt me because I'm like, yo, you're my brother. The fact that you even entertained the first phone call is already hurtful. And now you got the nerve to call me, because I'm like, damn, well, like, did these people say something to him for him to feel it was okay to call me to try to clear this nigga's name? I said to my brother, I said, aren't you the one that called me and told me that these niggas was threatening me? But sis, I'm just saying, like, Jamie did. And it hurt really bad.
Jenifer ended up posting this video and ended up revealing her face, telling Nicki Minaj and Kenneth to tell their people to leave her alone.
This message is for Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty. Tell your people to leave my family alone, okay? Don't call my family, don't call my brothers, don't call anybody. Leave me and my family alone.
That was in the heat of the moment, and it wasn't something that was pre-planned. The tears that I was crying was from me arguing with him. They would see, here's the thing. People would have never gotten in contact with me or my family if it wasn't on the strength of Kenny and Nicki.
3 days later, the cousin Petty and Jenifer both shared. Marie also appeared on Black T blog to call Jenifer a liar and even threaten her on air.
Jenifer was good. Liar, you're not tough. You only doing it because you think nobody can get to you. But I know where you live, boo. And I'll put your address out for him. I'll put you on blast, bitch. You know your crazy baby daddy looking for you. He want his daughter. Ooh. You looking for sympathy, you looking for clout. You looking for a come up in a you're not gonna get it. Not off the sweat, blood, and tears of my cousin. No, you're not. You put him through enough, don't you? Find another storyline. This ain't Love and Hip Hop, bitch. This is real life. This ain't that bullshit reality where you come with a storyline and they help you figure it out, bitch. This is for real. Baby. Okay, I'm here now. I got his back. I'm standing up for what's right. Bitch, get your life. Stop coming for mine, because I know where you live, boo. I ain't scared of feds. I ain't scared of police. Check my track record. I ain't never scared. You know what time it is, and you know you ain't about that life. You stand down. Just stand down. Do me that.
She threatened to make Jenifer's address public and insinuated that doing so would help an abusive former partner, the father of Jenifer's younger daughter, hunt her down. So now we know that the reason why she's been moving is not only because of Kenneth, but because of Jenifer's ex-partner or ex-husband. I think it's just a little bit manipulative to come on the internet and act like you were running away because lawyers were giving you a call. It just comes across as very manipulative and calculative. After a lot of YouTubers making videos on this situation, including Black T blog, a lot of them were putting out information that Jenifer didn't know about, and Jenifer decided that she was going to take legal action.
As for everything that's happened, now that he didn't register, they contacted you, you have been offered money to recant, you were asked if you could help them out and recant. You feel like now you're being threatened, is gone further than it needs to go. And this is a dangerous situation because you are just a woman trying to live your life, and Nicki Minaj does have a lot of power and a lot of money. You feel like you need legal representation?
Definitely, yeah. I was trying to avoid it for the longest time because I'm like, at the end of it, me getting my truth out versus looking for legal stuff, then that means that people are going to get in trouble. And I wasn't trying to mess up nobody's life, regardless of what they tried to do to me. Regardless of what they said to me, I wasn't looking for anybody to go to jail. I'm not looking for Kenneth Petty to go to jail. But if what Wack T said is the truth about there being a protective order, then, I can't avoid that. I can't avoid them getting in trouble.
Say you were contacted.
That platform and the people who've jumped on it, they really haven't helped Nicki Minaj's and Kenneth Petty's case. I think they may hurt it worse because I learned stuff that I didn't even know about.
Right.
I didn't even know about a protective order, but I know about it now.
Update for y'all. Jen has a lawyer. She's being represented. So we have more coming on Surviving the Petties, y'all. Ooh. 1 minute a nice, the next a monster. Nicki. Surviving the Petties.
Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Zoo Petty, has entered a plea deal for failing to register as a sex offender in the state of California.
According to the court documents, on August the 12th, 2021, within days of Kenny reaching a plea agreement in the Central District of California for his failure to register as an ex-offender, Black posted a threat to me on his Instagram social media. In this post, Black said, "Case is over now." Referring to the federal criminal case, Kenny accepted the plea. The video went on to say, "John Wayne TV coming soon to tell that she will be exposed. Case over now. 20K, huh? You know you don't fucked up. John Wayne TV. You lying ass bitch. 20,000. Black ends the video with a photo of 2 guns circled with the words saying, "Be safe out here." Lol. In August the 13th, the court proceedings begin. In these documents, there's claims that defendant Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty indirectly and directly intimidate and harass Jenifer, which Jenifer has never said they directly intimidate her. It also says that Kenneth apparently directly and indirectly intimidated Jenifer not to speak out the R word that she experienced in the hands of him. Again, she has never spoken about this, nor is there any form of evidence in the court documents. Then on the 13th of August, they lied and said that Nicki Minaj continued to shamefully hold insult to harm Jenifer's reputation, which is not true at all. None of the court documents have any evidence of this. Then on September the 23rd, 2021, The Real aired the episode of interviewing Jenifer. And judging by the questions that they had in this interview, you can tell that they didn't do their due diligence by looking really into this and seeing other interviews that she has done. But regardless, a lot of people sided with Jenifer and a lot of people were also against Jenifer and The Real, and they all basically got dragged and end up getting a lot of death threats. One of the hosts ends up speaking out about all this and ends up saying, "I'm usually a very strong woman. I've been raised to be strong. My life has taught me to be strong, but when it comes to my kids, it hurts. It's not okay. I've been in tears all night. It's just a TV show. People scream at your TV, throw something at your TV, but leave our kids alone." It's pretty crazy that she just downgraded the Jenifer situation to "it's just a TV show," which really tells me that they really didn't care about researching and getting to the bottom of things. Anyway, Nicki Minaj ended up responding to this on her Queen's radio show, and she ended up saying this.
They wanted ratings, and the next thing that happened to them, they were canceled. And now this lady is on one of the Real Housewives talking about, "Leave my son alone. Don't leave comments under my son's page. Bitch, if you can't fill this stand mother, get the fuck out the kitchen, bitch. Do you care about my mother son, bitch? Did you care about my mother son, hoe? I see why that white man left you, bitch. Disgusting."
Now, the video that Black secretly recorded ended up being released to the public. Now, apparently, guys, this was actually the second time it has been released to the public.
FaceTime conversation that Tasha K posted.
This 6-second clip, Hotshot, do you remember?
Yeah, the 6-second clip that Tasha K posted on.
But I cannot find any documentation when it was released before then. But regardless, it ended up being released again. But this time, it was released on Kenneth's homeboy's IG page.
Clip resurfaced, which basically is supposed to show that Jennifer Hough lied about Nicki Minaj's husband, Kenneth Petty, violating her when they were younger. And it was leaked by one of Kenny's close homeboys from Queens. In fact, Kenny doesn't have an IG, but uses this same homeboy's IG to post sometimes, especially when he's in Queens with him. He flicks it up and posts in captions. Just on August 14, he used this homeboy's account and posted an update picture captioned, "Y'all was looking for me?" And of course, the comment section is swarmed with Barbs who are excited to have some sort of connection with Nicki's man. So yeah, Kenny uses this account sometimes to post randomly, and that account brought the old clip back to the light and captioned it, "Ninja ain't never take no putty, you clown AB. It's up and you know that ish. Get off my Ninja D head. When the hate don't work, they start telling lies."
Jennifer's lawyer ended up responding saying,
verbatim, "The video clips online are old, heavily edited clips between Jenifer and Black. Nicki's team should post the entire conversation and not just just snippets. We are not worried. In fact, the Queen's DA is in the process of compiling over 200 pages of documents stemming from the 1994-1995 rap hearing and conviction, which we will use in our civil case against Kenneth Blackburn wrote. In another statement issued to Radar Online, he echoed a similar statement. This heavily edited video conversation with Jenifer and Black, the same man that threatened her life on IG Live, does not deserve a comment. Ask the rapist to explain the transcript from his plea hearing where he admitted to attempting to Jenifer with a knife at his grandmother's house, Blackburn said. Wow.
A lot of people that saw this video took it for what it was. Even today, you have people in my comments when I bring this up talking about how she admitted that she lied. And it was actually heavily edited. As someone who's been editing videos for a couple years now, I can tell you there's a lot of jump cuts in that video. And now that I understand the whole timeline and the whole situation, that if you guys have been watching this video, you would too, you would know that it wasn't the district attorney that was putting pressure on her. It wasn't someone else putting pressure on her to press charges on Kenneth, etc. As Black tried to make it seem, or whoever tried to make it seem.
They didn't want you to go to court because you recanted your story, you told them it never happened, XYZ, you was young, you was pressured, correct, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, yeah, babe. So, yeah, so that's probably why they were so thirsty, because they knew the case would have fell through the roof.
In fact, if you understand the story, you would understand it was her family that put pressure on her to try to drop the case. But what people did not see, she confirmed in this video that she wrote the letter. Even though she says that she was only saying what Black wanted to hear.
I just told Black what he wanted to hear.
Which I personally feel this is not the case, considering that there is another video of her saying that there is no letter.
If there's a letter, then they should have provided it, but they can't because there is none.
So she really tried to evaporate this whole letter thing. Eventually came out, but that's what was actually in the video. But you wouldn't know that unless you watched this video or understand the whole timeline of events and everything that happened. Jenifer said, since filing the lawsuit, I've received an onslaught of hate messages and threats on Instagram from Minaj fans and followers. The weekend of October the 23rd, Minaj and Kenny were in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Minaj did a live video on Instagram. During the Instagram live video, Kenny, along with other members of the Mac Ballers, set of the Bloods gang, and Minaj were throwing up gang signs and threatening me. Nicki Minaj is actually not holding any signs. On Twitter, a member of the Mac Ballers, set of the Blood gang, said the following: Jenifer, if you see this, the Macs are coming to get you. Problem with this tweet, how does she actually know that this is a part of the Blood gang that made that tweet? For all we know, it could be a fan that knows this whole situation and what's going on and just want to antagonize Jenifer by tweeting that. Now, Nicki Minaj responded to all this by saying that my husband and I are members of the Mac Ballers or any other gang is outrageously and completely false. Further, I did not direct, approve, or note about anyone posting any messages on Twitter mentioning plaintiff, including the messages stating, Jenifer, if you see this, blah, 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 blah. Now, this is the thing. This sounds like complete cap. If you're not a part of the Mac Ballers or any type of gang, why would you hold those symbols on your photos and even reference them in your music? It comes across as very cringe, because if you're saying it's true that you're not a part of them, why do you act like you are a part of them? It makes you look cringy, makes you look like a wannabe, makes you look like you're trying to get sales, so you try to appease to a gang, a huge gang at that matter in New York, by throwing references and hand symbols. And a grown man to do that who isn't a part of that is just really childish and really cringe. And I really highly doubt that. So it's either they're really cringy ass people or they're full of cap and they are actually a part of the Mac Ballers. Kenneth Petty is actually a part of them, and maybe Nicki Minaj, because she's with him, thinks it's cute to just reference them. Let me know if you do that in your daily life, throw these weird ass symbols. Now, according to Nicki Minaj, her and her family, aka Kenneth and her baby, were actually going to visit Kenneth's grandmother who lives in Jamaica, Queens. While they were driving, they saw a memorial of Sean Bell, and they decided to stop to look at the memorial there. According to the court docket, documents, they weren't planning to meet anyone, they weren't planning to see anyone, and you can tell in these videos that Nicki Minaj doesn't look like her glamorous self. They were just there to stop and look at the memorial. Her and her husband also recognized a few acquaintances and friends as well in the neighborhood, and one of them that she's actually planning to sign onto her record, who allegedly does not belong to a gang. She also says that she did not mention anything about the case, nor did she hear anyone talking about the case and Jenifer while she was there, including her husband. And she basically says, yes, I did go on IG Live, it wasn't planned in advance, it was just a spare of the moment type of thing. She also says, neither I or my husband nor anyone I knew made any gang signs that night. Well,
nigga right there. What's wrong with y'all niggas? We outside, niggas. Freeze up. Where y'all at? Where y'all at?
Now the thing is, with the court documents with Jenifer, she made it seem like she got threatened on that IG Live, and there is no evidence of that or anything that shows that she is getting threatened. It's just a random tweet that she basically concluded in her head that, oh, this is because she was live that night and she was in New York. Clearly, this is an intimidation tactic. There is no proof of that, and I don't think that is the case at all. But what do you think? Then January 2022 came. The person who started the hashtag Surviving the Petty Movement's YouTube channel got taken down.
Came together, Nicki Minaj, Tasha K, and another YouTube channel that uses the avatar because she's scared to show her face. They all came together and got my channel deleted.
Now I did send her a message on Instagram because I have not seen any solid proof that Nicki Minaj, Tasha K, and whoever else actually tried to get her channel down. Now if she did show you guys, shine a light on it because I have not seen nada. Jenifer decided to file response to motion and voluntary dismissal of Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj's lawyer was not too happy about this, ended up emailing Blackburn saying, I am pleased to see that you and Mrs. Hough have come to your senses and have dismissed this appalling lawsuit against Nicki Minaj, which has inexcusably wasted my time and her money over the past 3 months. In my view, your conduct of pursuing this case against Nicki represents the worst of our legal system. Bottom-feeding lawyers who pursue frivolous actions against a celebrity, assuming that they will be paid off if they throw up enough dirt. As I told you during one of our virtual meetings, Nicki would never pay a dime to your client. I was correct. You ultimately were forced to surrender without you or your client receiving a penny. In all events, while your dismissal of the amended complaint may be the end of your efforts to extort Nicki in a settlement, it is just the beginning of Nicki and my efforts to make you pay for your disgraceful conduct with both money and, if the court recommends it, disciplinary sanction. You forced my client to spend over $300,000 in fees to defend a case which even my dog Gracie could see was frivolous on both the facts and the law. While you avail yourself of Rule 11's safe harbor provision to avoid having to defend against the sanctions motion with which I served you on Sunday, there are other Rule 11 motions which I served in 2021 and which I now intend to file. I don't believe this is the end of them trying to come for Nicki. I don't know if they're going to do something else later on, but eventually Jenifer and Blackburn were able to pull all the evidence, the pictures of all the bruises, the court documents of Kenneth pleading guilty, police reports, etc. So they had a lot of evidence. After Jenifer's amendment and all the evidence that they had, Kenneth basically sent his amendment and denies everything. For example here, Kenneth denies knowledge of information sufficient to form a belief as to the truth of the allegation concerning where the image came from. This is the image where she had the alleged bite mark. And yeah, he denies. Now at the moment, they have a motion for extension of time to complete a discovery. Now there is a lot going on within this court case that I have not added in the video that I will have to make a whole other video about it. But now that you guys have seen the layout of everything, what do you think about the situation so far? If you like this video, you should definitely check out this Cardi B video that I made a few years back when someone in her past came and basically lied on her, which ended up leading to Tasha K getting sued.